Chaotically Nerdy is a podcast made by nerds for nerds. This podcast is made by adults, for adults, and children with bad parents. Adult language will be used and adult situations may arise. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chaotically Nerdy.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, I forgot to introduce us last time.
Yeah, you did.
Fuck.
did.
I said,
Look at that.
I thought the same thing.
So,
Asshole.
the two people, people should know by now, fuck. The two people joining me today are,
Jarrett.
and,
Ethan.
hey, good job. And then Tyler, of course.
Hi again.
Hi again. I'm Tyler. I've been an alcoholic for 6 years. That's false.
I'm
Only
Ethan.
6?
Only 6. No, I barely even drink anymore. So today's episode, we're going to discuss your Session 0 and Homebrew rules. We'll kind of talk about what our Homebrew rules are. Mm-hmm. And if we have time, we're going to talk about character creation as well. Like how do you make a character, where you start, and what you go for. Mm-hmm. So to start us off, you need to know what, I guess what time and place this is going to take effect in your game. Jarrett,
Okay.
because you probably DM the most out of the three of us now.
I don't know.
I mean, Ethan does some, but I'd say you're more a player right now.
He's
I've been for a
I've
while.
been helping try to coach people through DMing. I've DM'd
Put me in,
a
coach.
lot.
I know you've DM'd a lot, but
Why are you in here? Why are you in here insulting me?
I'm not. I'm saying
Ethan's
like,
DM'd more than I have.
I know that he has,
I
but
would
I'm
say I
saying
have DM'd
recently.
more recently. I have DM'd
that's what I'm
more
saying.
than you.
Recent.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'd say starting campaigns more recently. You have
Yeah. So
done more.
basically, this point of Session 0 is just like, when are we meeting? When are we playing? How often? Whatever. Then you want to go through a couple of, some people do like questionnaires. I don't know if you have to get that detailed. I've seen like 20 questionnaires of like, what you enjoy. That's something I think you could just talk about. Like, what kind of games do you enjoy? Maybe you enjoy hunting monsters and killing shit, and Ethan enjoys like political, like stuff.
That's very accurate, actually. Yes.
Yeah,
It is.
it is.
That's why I said it. But like, so that's something like, the DM has to like take in and be like, all right, this is how we're going to balance game. Like, not sway probably too far in one vein.
Because you want everybody to have fun.
Yeah, we're all here to have a good time.
I mean, the DM, as a DM, you should have a story you're wanting to tell through your game, but you should also, like, really, there's other people playing. You're not the only one playing. You should be taking into account what other people are expecting out of the game.
And what are they going to enjoy the most?
Yeah. So, like you said, combat is a big thing. Some people really want to do combat. Like
Every session.
Every session. Some people, like, recently we did, like, almost 6 months without any combat. Had a great time because we were just
Fucking around.
yeah. And I don't know. You need to make sure that you're hitting some marks as a DM with the campaign that is going to draw the players in, because you're there to help make it fun for yourself, but also for other people. Don't forget yourself either, because you can get really burnt out really quick.
And I think that we talk about Ethan likes a more political role play game. I say liked because I haven't played in forever, but a more combat heavy game. But I think that stems from being new to the game. And when you're new, whenever you kill an enemy, it feels good.
Yeah, you get that dopamine rush. You're like, yeah, fucking killed something.
And the longer you play, the more that
It's like
kind
a drug.
of well,
You
get kind of numb to it.
You
I mean,
get
it
numb
is.
to it.
Yeah. I understand mass killers now. I mean, I understand it. I don't. It's a joke.
But
yeah, so you kind of like the combat just like takes less and less importance the longer I feel like you go on in a specific system.
so I guess
Especially in a campaign, you're going to have those stints where it's very combat heavy, like in a dungeon or something like that, or a battle or something like that. And then other times you're going to have a little bit of a, quote, downtime, which you could speed through and just do downtime stuff like in the books.
which we've done.
Which we've done, which is good. And it can be really interesting and involved, but at the same time, like actually having stuff to do outside of combat, talking to people, Making items is another big thing. Tracking down information, things like that for your campaign can be a lot of fun, a lot of interest, and it really provides depth.
Yes.
For a lot of people. Other people are just like, oh my God,
We haven't done anything.
yeah,
But if you're newer to the game, you're probably going to want the combat,
I'm going to kill the next homeless person I find.
and that happens a lot.
Which that could be the character too. Like your character could be like, I got to kill. That's the psychopath. But
That's the Jamie.
yeah,
It is the Jamie. But again, he's newer. I mean,
Yeah.
the more time he spent playing, you never know. He could, because near the end of when I stopped playing, I was getting, I don't want to say bored, but bored's the word, of the combat. It felt like that was all we were doing was combat. And then I know earlier in the podcast, whenever we talked about you doing 6 months of role play, I was like, what the actual fuck?
That
I
wasn't
leave
it's something that like I decided. It just
Happened.
happened.
that's really
Naturally.
what we did in character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Now,
was,
that's
we
what I'm
weren't
saying.
deciding not to do combat. It's just
The way it felt.
Yeah. And
we had
I,
other things we wanted to do.
I have to actually clarify. There was combat, but when we say combat, we like rolling initiative, the entire party fighting. That didn't happen for 6 months, probably.
Yeah.
There would be like, okay,
Somebody
I'll-
get in a
yeah,
fight. And
I'll, let's go fight in an arena. And like, Sean was like went and fought in an arena.
Yeah.
And then like, or maybe you go beat up a thug or something,
And then
right?
Tim died.
Yeah.
poor Tim.
All that was left was his legs.
All right. So then you have to determine kind of.
Oh, I want to say one more thing.
Okay. Go ahead.
You should also like, discuss any like no-goes for any of your players, like, rape or sexual assault or anything like that, anything that like
Is a hot button for them.
hot button, a topic that is nope, we ain't doing that. That's not going to be even happening or discussed in this campaign.
Yeah,
It's
because I feel like if you get on D&D subreddit, that's what a ton of the questions are. Like, how do I deal with
questions
this
and-
player?
or problems?
Yeah. Like, how should I deal with this player? Because they keep doing this, and the rest of my party's not okay with it.
Well, let's not move on quite yet.
No, I didn't mean move on as like, let's go to stats. I was talking about we need to talk about, like, what type of game are you going to have?
yeah,
like,
okay.
is it going to be a political?
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
So that's just something I
So
want to throw out there.
recently you had that, like, we had that stint and you were DMing it. Do you have any, like, suggestions for, like, that more political kind of RP thing?
Not really. I guess you just kind of have to know your world and know kind of like how players interacting with your world the world will then respond to your players. So,
And it would be a lot different, say, if you were in, like, we were in what is in your place called the Dominion.
Yeah.
And it's a very, like, almost Roman style.
it is. It's very Roman inspired.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to you would want to take into account what you want to be there, what would be there naturally
Yeah.
in the world. And you kind of have to think, providing plot points and stuff like that for them to latch on to, connect to, giving them things to do. Like in the meantime, saying a long stint of travel is what we were doing. And just finding things to do. It can be hard at times.
Yeah.
It can be really hard at times, but just, let your players find what they want to do as well while giving them things to think about.
It's also important in a political game, I feel like, to make sure the world feels like it's living. So, like, have other things happening in the world that don't necessarily relate to the players.
And be like, especially if they were in one city, they left, and then when they come back to that city, like, oh yeah, this happened since you were gone. There was a rebellion, and
just like having stuff happening outside of the world, it makes you feel more alive, and
they don't come back to the same thing and think
It's
they
not
know
just-
everything that there is.
There's also a weird point to make on that too, is that you don't really want to discourage your players from being creative and finding a way to bend the world to something more that they like. But at the same time, you do have to limit it somewhat, but don't just tell them like, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Just make it feel realistic. They can't do that. Why can't they do that? So then you provide it through the world instead of just saying no.
Instead of just being, nope, fail. So let's talk about the different types of games. I know we've kind of covered them.
Yeah.
There's the political game, which
Yeah.
we kind of just talked about, as far as setting up a world to make that happen. I would say whenever we played with Logan and he was the eco-terrorist. That was definitely a more political side of it. So, I mean, you can have aspects of everything in that game.
Yeah, your game doesn't have to be specifically one type of game. It can be...
I highly suggest not making it one type. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that makes it way harder.
Well,
Just
because
give a
the
mishmash.
world is not one type.
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it makes sense for it to have others. And, I mean, we've already talked about it, whether it's survival, Monster Hunter. You can get with your party and decide, do they want to be runaway cons?
Yeah.
I guess.
Outlaws.
Yeah,
I mean, I
outlaws.
should say, like, this current campaign that we are in started out as a monster. I was like, I'm not having a plot, really. I'm going to let you guys just go around and, like, kill monsters, do whatever the hell you want.
Sell meat.
Sell meat, yeah. And then it turned into...
Forgot that's the same campaign.
Yeah. Then it turned into
Buy you
a
meats and
political
greets.
game somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll always remember Oaken Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Remember,
Remember
Oaken Hill.
never forget.
Remember the
Never
hill.
forget.
Okay. So then next up, we've already talked about Blacklist. So let's jump into stats.
Yeah, this is kind of like, you know, your your DM will determine how does your game generate stats.
There's like several different like known methods. We have a little bit different,
I think ours is pretty.
I think ours is
standard.
pretty common.
but most
We've experimented with some, but I think ours
Right.
now is pretty common.
Yeah, we have
yeah,
experimented.
most people roll the 4d6, drop the lowest, and then that's one of your stats, and then you kind of
Do that 6 times
you do that 6 times and you line it out.
Yeah.
We do 7 times, drop the lowest,
and reroll ones.
and
And
reroll
reroll
ones.
Yeah,
Just high stats aren't a bad thing. Low stats are certainly they can be rough at times, but they can provide a lot of depth to your
Yeah.
character too.
so I think it's something.
but you have to be able to play into that.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
I think it's something we should touch on. Is like the difference between the power level difference between rolling stats and like having standard array or point buy, which will be very static.
Yes.
The same.
Everybody will
It-
essentially not
it's
have the same
homogenized.
stats, but you will have the same stats in different areas because you will have to place them wherever you need.
But I don't personally like
Me neither.
the homogenized
It's
version
very
of things.
homogenized in the same.
None of the characters really vary stat wise from one another.
No.
Outside of where it's placed, everything's over 10. It's
Well, unless you do like 15, 15, 8, 8, 8.
right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as good.
And there's
to do
something about
that.
making a level 1 character that has a
20.
20 that is just fun.
Yeah, they're really good at that thing, that skill. They're really smart, or they're stupid strong, and they're probably stupid along with the strong. But I don't hate those. They're just not my preferred style.
And we also did, I think for this one, we had like a floor. I think it was your floor, right? Remember when I added all the
Yes,
scores
yes.
up, and then I
We had
think I
a-
subtracted like 5 or 6 off of it, and it was
Yeah.
like
Well,
that's
it's because
the
my original roll was like
awful.
sub 60.
Yes, it was like
We had a
so
bare
that's a way.
minimum.
Like if you roll, you can definitely get like the super. Wooler's infamous for rolling super.
It's something about rolling 4d6s.
yeah, he's
They
like
just
super
roll
good at
well,
it.
or they roll decent, and then there's 3 1s. Like I get 1 6, and there's 3 1s, and I re-roll them, and there's 2 5s.
Yeah,
Like
so
it's-
he's really good at that. When you can get those highs and lows really easily. So
Absolutely.
we started implementing like a floor of like to keep everybody in the same ballpark of power. Level.
And did a total point.
Yeah.
Is the way that one works out. So if it was you got 60, like if you had all 10s,
yeah.
it was okay. Well, bump it up to
I
this.
can't remember. I think it was like 75 or 78 or something like that.
But
was
it can also feel really good. I mean, it can feel really bad if you get a bunch of 12s and 14s.
yeah.
But at the same time, it can feel really good. Like I remember somebody rolled out their character and they got all 16s and 17s on their original roll.
Yeah.
Let alone plus all the stat bonuses from
Yeah.
races and stuff.
And ability
And
score
then they
improvement.
became a
Yeah.
druid.
And they chose Druid, which was ridiculous. I think the other thing I would want to talk about with this is new players. It's a really, really good idea to give them some sort of bonus to their stats, like making sure that they don't roll the ones, making sure that they have that like leeway with dropping the lowest, like rolling 7 and dropping the lowest. It's it can really help them not die. like
and help them
instantly.
not die. And the longer they go without dying, the more fun they have,
Right.
and that
and-
will keep them coming back.
You're trying to introduce them to the game, so you shouldn't be killing them instantly. If you are, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not going to come back. They're going to say, "Well, that wasn't that fun."
Yeah.
And then
Because you have to make it fun for them. If you don't want them to come back, kill them. But I mean,
Did that.
did that. He kept coming back.
but you want them to have fun. New players especially.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that they're having fun. So let them have that little bit of stat increase.
Well, I remember when we first started playing and Ethan was DMing the rock shot. We were like, what, level 4?
I don't remember.
Oh, I kicked back that rock shot.
I know you did,
Yeah.
but still, you look at a Rakshasa in the monster manual and you're like, how the fuck did we beat that? Obviously, now knowing it was, well, you,
The only thing I did was I took away the
magical.
the immunity to weapons.
Yeah.
Is the only thing I took off of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still,
It was more for flavor.
that was fun. It was a hard fight and it was fun.
Yeah.
Not as hard as it could have been.
Yeah.
But that kept us coming back, I think. And then you have little moments, because the game is full of just little moments where it's so much like golf. It's hard to explain because, like, when you play golf, you will have a terrible time.
And you hit
You
one
will
shot.
be doing terrible, and you'll hit one shot, and you're back in it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're like, this is the greatest
Made your
game I've
day.
ever played. D&D is the same way. You like the Drider moment that we've talked about before. It's a moment that lives in my head forever and will probably live in my head forever because it was such a fun moment that it will keep me coming back. And then you have other moments where you'll crit
But-
and you'll do.
But on your archer, there were fights where I remember like you missed 90%
Oh,
of your
yeah.
shots.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel great.
No.
But then you have that
The one
moment,
shot-
the Drider moment,
Yeah.
and then you killed the Drider, and it's like, holy shit, I'm Legolas.
Yeah.
I'm a god.
And one shot.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't give a fuck that I missed
Yeah. Makes
the
up for all-
rest of
yeah.
the
Yeah.
shots I took.
Yeah.
I hit the one that mattered.
For new players, I think if you get a low stat, don't worry too much about it. Play into it. Make it part of your character. I played Lurk, and Lurk had a really low intelligence.
Very low.
And I played into it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to do a whole bunch of things, but not as much of the intelligence things, but I did other things.
Yeah.
And
That
it's
also
a lot of fun to play into it role play wise.
Yeah. It also, just because you're dumb doesn't mean you have to be stupid, which is not, the words are often synonymous, but don't make
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
don't
Yeah.
make reckless decisions just because you're dumb. Don't fight everybody because you're too, don't say, well, I'm too stupid to realize who's a friend and who's an enemy, because that's just going to get your character killed.
Well, that would be wisdom.
As
I know,
Rock
but-
says, I have an intelligence of 6. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. So then let's talk about homebrew rules, and we'll actually talk about ours a little bit
Yeah.
as well. We'll tie that in to say what rules that we add to our games.
Generally, like Session Zero, this is where most of the time any homebrew rules your DM wants, or I guess technically the party could lobby for them as well. This is where that stuff should be brought up. Be like, here's what the homebrew rules are, yada, yada, yada. I think we use the flanking rule from the DMG.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of anything else from the DMG that we use, but I think that might be about it.
I think that is it.
Yeah.
As far as from the DMG, the rest of it's
Stuff we've kind of just tweaked and done here and there.
like specifically the crit rules.
Yeah.
I know we've done that because,
A long time.
yes, we've done that as long as I can remember.
I think.
So to explain our crit rules, Ethan, because I can't remember them because it's been so fucking long since I
It's very
played.
easy.
So a lot of
You do,
so
never mind. I remember it.
Yeah, it's very easy.
a lot of people don't roll with this crit roll because they don't want the monsters to die so quickly. I understand that. They also don't want the players to die like
Yeah,
instantly.
it
but
makes it makes it very swingy sometimes.
it,
Yes,
it,
it
it
does.
really does. But
if you're
personally, I feel like it's nice because it makes the critical rolls, the critical failures, a lot more.
impactful.
Yeah,
Yep.
good things are going to happen sometimes. Really good things are going to happen very, very few times. But that's what crits are for, and it feels much more rewarding, but it also feels much more punishing. It's a really big give and take here.
Yeah.
What we do for critical rolls is really if someone hits a crit, rolls a 20 on a 20. If it's a damage roll, they get the full the maximum damage roll from the dice plus your additional roll
Yep.
on top of it.
Yeah.
It does provide a little bit more damage. It's not maxed on the second roll.
Well, yeah, it basically ensures that you will have more damage than the maximum.
yes.
Because isn't the standard crit for
Yeah,
attacks?
it just roll it and double it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
So-
standard.
So you could still not even get over your max
No, you
damage.
could
if
roll a
roll
one,
if you roll
Double
terrible.
it to 2.
well, think about greatsword. So
Yeah.
it's 2d6.
Yeah.
And if you rolled the 2d6 and got
Snake
two
eyes.
ones and you double it,
You
it's
did
a
4
4
damage.
4
Yeah.
damage.
Yeah.
And that
It
does not
feels
feel
bad.
Yes.
Whereas
Compared
if you
to-
rolled the 2d6 and got snake eyes on our crit system, it's a 14.
Which
Plus your modifiers.
Plus your, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying base. But that feels good.
Yes.
And it's not crazy detrimental to the game.
no, there's only certain ones that make it.
Yeah, it does scale the higher you go. So you start doing stuff like, you know,
Yeah, you do ridiculous.
It,
like
can,
when
it can be ridiculous.
hey, here's a 5th level smite.
But
because
on the,
yeah, we also do it for saving throws.
so critical
Yes,
failures.
yes. If
and-
you roll a critical
So if
failure,
critical failure, you take same. You take max plus roll, and if you critically succeed, doesn't matter what it is, you're just not affected. You basically get
Yes.
evasion for the entire.
if you crit.
yeah, you just succeed and take no damage.
But we do, the thing is we did a trade off with
Yeah.
this, is that if the players get to have those effects,
Monsters do too.
monsters do too.
Yeah,
And it makes it scary at times.
Yeah. It does make it scary, but it should be scary.
Yeah.
You're in combat with a
yeah.
dragon.
Yeah.
It should be scary.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And then-
Famously, Jamie was going up against a very high level Gith Yankee pirate lord.
Zerai.
Githzerai, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I always forget which one's which. Githzerai, pirate lord, rolled a natural 1 on psychic scream. His head fucking exploded.
What happened?
It
I-
was amazing.
It was great.
That's the other thing. So you mentioned evasion.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, with evasion, if you rolled a crit fail, you would still take half damage. Correct?
Yeah.
Our homebrew rules are that's negated. If you roll a crit fail, you take the damage.
No, I think we still have it.
You still
take
just
that.
do the max
I think.
damage?
I don't remember if we've ever actually had that happen though.
What?
Where they roll a 1 with evasion still.
Do we still do the crit damage though? So they still
crit-
they
No,
take
they
half of
just-
the
I think
crit
it's just-
damage.
I think it's half the crit damage.
Okay,
They would
so-
take full damage. You would, because if they have evasion and they pass, they take no damage. If they fail, they take half damage. So if they critical failed, they would take full damage, but
Okay.
not critical damage.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
We'll take it. That's fine.
That's what we just never had it
I
happen.
don't know if we've
Yeah.
ever.
I
had it
didn't.
happen.
I didn't know if we did or not. I couldn't remember if it's ever happened.
Actually, on our roll 20, we've been doing a interesting thing for critical failures with, like, if you crit fail to hit with a weapon. We have a table that we roll on now.
Oh, God.
For what happens if you do that. So, like, you could break your weapon, you could
Yeah.
lose the weapon, you could hit somebody else. You know, something strange could happen.
We've done that. Like
I'm not a big fan of critical failure tables. It's just because it's kind of like adds more.
Yeah, it's fun.
I-
It's
it
called
adds-
fun, Jarrett.
It adds more like rolling and stuff to like combat, which can get kind of tedious and like
It can.
I think that
it can.
is
We've been
part-
trying it out. It's all
I would always just be like, all right, it's up to the DM to be
Our
like,
archer is now carrying like 10 bows with him in his bag.
see, yeah,
Yeah, because he
Just
keeps
in case.
breaking his bow.
there you go.
solid. So rolling for hit point.
Rules,
Yes.
yeah,
So the base is you can take either one of these. You can either roll your health plus your constitution,
Yeah.
or you can take the average
Yeah.
plus your constitution. We do both.
yeah.
Yes.
and
We-
we reroll once.
Yeah. No, we reroll once.
No.
I haven't been rerolling.
No, maybe we
once.
don't.
No, we don't reroll once.
I'm getting confused.
So the way our
say-
homebrew works is, say it's a D8. If you roll a 2,
Yeah.
you get 5 plus your constitution plus any feat modifiers like tough or anything like that.
Generally, just makes the characters a bit more resilient.
With the critical system we're using, it's almost necessary.
Yes. Very much so.
But also, it's not detrimental to the game because
No.
and it still feels really nice to get the maximum whenever you level to get the additional health.
Well, and like the thing that everybody talks about but doesn't do is, or they do it, fudging rolls as a DM.
Yeah.
Like if they've crit and you're fighting a monster, add some health. Like if you think it's gonna die too fast,
Yeah, it's a very nebulous pull.
give some health. If
Like-
you think you're gonna kill the party too fast, roll back some of the damage.
this literally happened with the Unogu fight that we had, where I was basically like, all right, I'm going to gauge it based on how this first round of combat went. First round of combat they did like 60% of his health. I was like, all right, so he's getting mythic action. So essentially, he basically doubled his health.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to die immediately.
Well, that's
as a DM, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Fudging rolls as a player.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
You should never fudge rolls as a player.
As a DM, your
DM,
job is to make it fun for everybody.
Yes.
And if a combat ends in like turn 1, that's not fun.
Yes.
There's no challenge. There's no.
Yeah.
I don't know. It can be fun. I mean,
It can be
pretty fun to
interesting.
one-shot a Drider.
Fair.
But that wasn't the entire combat.
No, it was not.
That was one-shotting an enemy,
Yes.
which is different.
A bad enemy.
Yeah.
It was a fucking...
Big bad.
We all seen that and went, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Then potion rules.
Yeah. So this is something we have used as just potions or bonus actions.
Because rules is
Quaffing
red.
a potion
Yeah.
would be a bonus action.
And then I recently was like, in this current campaign, I decided if you take an action to quaff the potion, you
get the full...
You get the maximum amount of hit points it's basically just for healing potions only, but
Yeah.
It just makes combat flow a lot smoother. It makes it feel more rewarding again, because that's the whole point is to make it feel.
Yeah.
You don't have to decide,
You don't have to
do
waste
I
an
get
action
to
to-
hit
yeah.
or do I get to heal myself?
Which doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's understandable. Like, looking at it from an outside perspective, it's understandable why you would want to make somebody choose. Because they have to choose. Do I try to kill this thing or do I keep myself alive for a little bit longer? If you're in a later fight.
Which, I mean, like, there's a lot of homebrew rules that people use. It's a very good point to say that, like, if you read the player's handbook, if you read the DMG, one of the first things that they tell you is these are more like guidelines.
Yes.
Take and choose, remove, add whatever works for your table.
yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, everything we discussed here may not work for your like maybe you don't want the swinging combat, or
Maybe you don't want that crit
Yeah.
thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's whatever. It's what works for you.
And then homebrew character creation rules. So I know we've talked about it several times. Jarrett gives you a feat at level 1. And then also gives you a feat at every ability score improvement.
That's actually a relatively new thing
That's
for
a-
our group.
Yes, it
because
is.
I just
Yeah.
was like, fuck it, I just want to see
How
more
strong.
feats.
Yeah.
Not even strong. I just want to see more feats because there's so many more feats than there were originally now.
Well, especially after the Tasha's thing, where
Yeah.
they've homogenized the changing, like the ability score improvements from races.
Yeah.
Yes.
That you can pick and choose whatever you want. This just adds flavor to your character.
Yeah.
It does. Because before, you kind of picked a race based off of
The class you wanted.
the
to
class
play.
you wanted to
Yeah.
play. And it made sense. I like it that way, personally.
But now you can play a cool race that has like weird
Yeah.
stat things that you're like, I don't want to play that kind of class.
Yeah. Is there any other homebrew rules we can think of?
I was going to say more on the character creation. This is stuff, where your DM can be like, hey, this class or this race doesn't exist or we don't use it or, whatever, limits it. We did something like that.
I mean, Ethan bans the rabbit people on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate them.
And was it in the Tesca campaign? Didn't you have something like we couldn't be...
You couldn't be Eric Cochran because he killed them
That's
all.
right, yeah.
I was getting ready to say that's kind of a that was
That was
not a
specific
start.
world
Yeah,
problem.
it's a very specific thing. But, table to table, the DM might be like, hey, I don't like this race. A lot of people will ban Eric Cochran just because of the flying or flying tieflings or whatever. People don't like flight.
Owlin.
Yeah.
Now, because now there's so many races that fly. Don't fairies fly?
Yes. Yeah. Because I played one.
I
For
do.
a very
the
little bit.
barbarian.
The barbarian.
So that's just where your DM would just be like, hey, this stuff doesn't work for us.
The other thing for the character creation thing, it's not really for character creation, but it also involves the ability score improvements. Is that for our homebrew rules, for our table rules, like what you've done this campaign? Anytime somebody gets an ASI from their class when they level, they get a feat and they get the ability score improvement.
Yes, they get both.
But none of the half feats give ability score improvements. So none of the feats give like Constitution or anything.
Yeah.
But every time you get an ability score improvement, you can
Well,
take.
no, I think I said that you can't dump it all into one stat. So if you take like resilient constitution and use your ASI,
I thought you told us that we couldn't
I can't
take.
remember. I think we're all high level.
It's on the page.
It is. We're all high enough level. You're all high enough level now. It's kind of like
Meh.
it doesn't
matter.
you
Yeah.
know?
Because, I mean, once you get to 20, the only way you're getting above that 20 is magical means.
Yeah.
All right. So then the next thing that your session 0 you're going to kind of talk about is your party composition. This is where you meet your party oftentimes.
Well, I was just this made me talk about where you talk about what you want to play as a party.
Yeah.
Like I want to play a ranger. I want to play a rogue. I want to play a paladin. Whatever.
And we did a lot of times of we made our characters in that session 0. Like
That's
we would sit at the table
you
and
do make your character.
we would do all of this stuff. We would roll. We would make our class, which we're getting ready to talk about as far as making the character. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, generally it's just kind of like some people don't like to play or have duplicate classes in the party. I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing.
You could roll with all paladins and it would work just fine.
Yep.
Your DM's gonna hate you.
Yeah.
You
But
could do all clerics as
Ethan
well.
speaks from
We've talked about
experience.
that.
We had 3 paladins in a 5-man party.
Yes,
he
we
did. He did part of that. He made me a paladin whenever he brought me back to life.
You asked. You asked. I made it happen.
I get it.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You just did it yourself, though.
Yeah, I'm just cutting my own wrists.
Then generally you want to make, like, does this party have like any sort of like cohesion to it? Does it make sense? Is it like, is there like a glaring weak spot in the party?
Do you have a healer?
Do you,
Do you have a healer?
You don't have to.
Do you have a mage of some
well,
sort?
not even that. It's,
A magic user.
I mean, yeah. But are you going to have one person that is a Jamie who's chaotically evil and going to try and kill everything you see?
Yeah.
And the party's going to want to kill them immediately because you're going for a good campaign.
For like actual party comp though, I think the only really big deal is making sure that you're not all low health backline people.
You're not
having
all
their
mages.
front line that's going to run up and take the attention.
Just 5 wizards.
Just it's not going to work out real well.
It's gonna be a really, really hard.
Whether you
campaign.
have a healer or not,
4 wizards, 1 sorcerer.
you'll be fine. But if you're just a bunch of sorcerers, it's not going to be fun.
No, it's gonna be.
You're going to get wrecked.
And as a DM, you kind of need to, if there's not a healer, you should make potions available.
Yeah, you need to make healing available.
And adding the homebrew rule of it's a bonus action to quaff a potion.
That helps.
Coming
An
back
action
again
gives you
to
full, like, that helps in a situation where the party doesn't feel like one person has to be a dedicated healer.
right. This is coming back again to making sure that your people are getting to choose what they do instead of being pigeonholed.
Yes.
Like if the last person to choose what they want to play gets stuck with playing with a fighter, a barbarian, a wizard,
And that's not really what they wanted to do.
and a rogue.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I have to play a healer now. No, you
No, you
don't.
don't. No.
Play what you want.
Yeah, play what you want.
anything, like,
Make it work.
yeah.
We've
play
done
a
that plenty of
paladin.
times.
Play a paladin and just give everyone else the middle finger.
Because the healing's all for you.
It's all for me.
Because we talked about that several times.
If you're going to heal yourself.
All right. So now, I guess, let's break down how we build a character.
Which is all very similar, I feel like.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, generally, we all wait.
Yes.
We let everybody else pick.
I will agree with
and
that.
we try and fill some gaps.
We all
generally.
have an idea in our
Yeah.
mind of I want to play this, and then it goes to shit, and we make something up.
Well, because for me, like if I'm waiting to fill a gap, I know that whatever class I'm playing, whatever role I'm filling, I'm going to have fun with it because usually I have the most fun with actually role playing out the character.
Yeah.
So I can do that with whatever, right? It doesn't matter if I'm wanting to, I'm going to have fun with the character itself, not just with the combat. I can make the combat work. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And that probably is the easiest thing to make work.
Yeah.
Is combat.
Yeah.
It's role playing is the hardest part, which is where I fall short. And it's harder for me to fill in those gaps and still have as much fun with those characters.
But generally, when I start to make a character, originally what I think of is what kind of, again, I start with that role play thing. It's like, where do I want to be at? Like, I look at like what role I'm going to take, and then say, well, what kind of person do I want to be in that situation? Do I want to be work with the party, or do I want to be kind of like the antithesis, kind of anti-hero to the party,
Yeah.
which happens a lot.
Now to speak to if you're just making a character, you don't care what the rest of the party composition is, stuff like that. Where I always start is with the background. Like I try to go to the role play aspect first, and then work my way into class and race and everything else. But now, especially with Taj's, it doesn't matter what race you pick, unless you're literally picking it for flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the little special abilities that you get if you want those. So I decide what class I'm going to pick and start working on a background, and then, or a backstory, I guess is a better way to say that, because backgrounds are a different thing in the game. You get a background, they give you a little special feat and some skills. It's not necessary. Like, I don't think we're going to cover those just because it's so easy to talk about.
Well, when you do pick a background, you pick, like what I'm saying, that's really what it is. What I was talking about is I'm picking the role play side of it. Once you figure out who your character is, it really leads you into what class they are.
Yes.
And then you don't have to worry about that kind of decision paralysis.
Yeah.
With all the options for classes.
And sometimes it's easy to pick the class first and then make up your backstory.
It is. That's how
a lot of the classes
how I make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the classes have your generic. I mean, hell, the first one I played was a ranger. Based it off of Legolas because that was the easiest way to do it.
Probably the easiest ones to come up with a character story for is if you're going to play a paladin cleric or a warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're probably the easiest because you're going to be following similar to whatever deity or mantra you're choosing to follow.
Yeah.
They have a built-in role-play aspect to them.
I mean, yeah, as far as roleplay goes, I'd probably roleplayed the Death Cleric the best because of having something to base off of.
So if you have trouble like deciding who your character is roleplay wise, try one of those out and you can kind of find out what you want to be from there. There's also another way that I used for Rex.
Yeah, which was just...
I basically just randomized the whole character.
You did that for Lurk, too.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you just randomize the whole character. You roll out to see what race you're going to be, what class you're going to be, and then you roll out your stats after that. And then it can feel really good and it can work out really well. It can work out really badly.
Yeah, you do some weird shit that you're like, that doesn't work.
But it can be a lot of fun trying to figure out who your character is in that, too.
And sometimes you can make it work, even if it is dog shit.
So there's a lot of ways you could build a character.
Yeah.
It's up to you. If you really have this idea you want to stick with it. But
if it doesn't fit with the party, stick with it.
That's another homebrew rule that we have for our table is somebody can't play the same class twice in a row.
Yes.
So like if I killed Ethan, he could not play Bard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right after.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying because he's currently a Bard right now.
Yes.
Because I really think it
helps you stretch your role play and your actual D&D mechanical muscles of like playing a different class. We enacted this rule because of Jamie.
Well, because he just literally put Junior.
Well, he just he wants to play a certain character and he would die and then he'd be like, well, I just want to play that character again. I'm like, well, just try some other shit.
Yeah.
I've talked to several people who have played and I've never played with that play D&D that have played at other tables and stuff, and they say that my character died, so I remade the character as a different race, but it was the same class and subclass. And I'm like, what? Why? What? There's so many other options that are good.
It'd be fun to me.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's just
But I mean,
whitewashed vanilla.
I get it to a degree because if you really enjoy that, like if that's your favorite class and that's the one you want to play and it dies session one, I get that.
I try and change it up a little.
That's a little bit different.
That's different. I'd be
agree.
like, again, I think Jeremy did die session 1 or 2. I can't remember this.
It was 1.
One.
Okay.
It was session 1.
I would have allowed him if he wanted to play a similar. I think he was a barbarian. I would have let. I would have let him play a barbarian again. I just been like, that was just some weird rolling shit that happened. That just he died.
Yeah.
I tried to save him.
Yeah,
but it didn't work.
It happens. All right.
We ate him.
I think that kind of wraps up everything. I mean, is there anything else we can think of about character creation as far as making it? Like we talked about background, which again is not that important.
Oh, names.
Yeah, names are fucking hard.
Only for some of us.
I have great time with names.
I don't.
Make it fun. Make it fun.
Or don't. Pick a fucking name and stick with it. Who gives a shit?
Draven.
That's what I do.
Altair.
Yeah. I didn't even know Draven was a video game character.
He looked it up after.
Yeah. Whenever you guys started giving me shit, that's whenever I realized it was a video game character. I just looked up. There's also name generators.
Yeah. Fantasy name generator is fantastic.
That's what I've been using.
They have so many options. You can really narrow it down to what
What
type
race
of
you
name, what race you are, what.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to mimic like a Lord of the Rings dwarf, you can go pick Lord of the Rings, go to dwarf, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice
I guess
world building.
something that we don't.
It is.
Very,
So much easier.
Very useful.
Yeah, you get 40 names in, you're kind of like, oh my god.
I guess something else we don't talk about is the voice of the character.
Oh yeah, if you want to have an accent or
Role playing,
some sort of
it helps.
different voice than your own.
It helps you get a little more into the role play side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I don't do it. I don't do it very often. But
It can be taxing not only on your own voice, but on your own mental
Yes.
abilities.
I think if we had a smaller party from the last time I played.
I mean, we're still like 4 or 5 people, but still.
Well, I know.
That's
but
normal. That's normal party
when I
size.
played, it was like 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So if it was a smaller party, it would be easier to do, and it would help you realize when somebody is saying something in character versus just saying it to make a joke. Because we do that a lot.
Yeah,
we will say some stupid shit as a joke, and then we're like, "Oh, well, did you actually want to do that?" And we have to like stop pace of play,
Are
basically.
you serious?
Yeah, and so
I think I don't do it very often. I think the last time I did it, really, like sometimes I'll kick in that New York City accent.
Oh yeah, for
for Rex. But I think the last time I really did it was for Earl and Neil.
Yeah, and those were NPCs.
And I got nothing but shit for it. So
Anthropomorphic dogs.
nothing but shit for it. Those were amazing.
Oh, you actually liked them because
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were making fun of me.
No, it's because we thought it was so great that they were anthropomorphic dolls.
I think I liked that, but I think Neil was my favorite. And he did talk like this.
Yeah, you can talk like Ling Blade. Number business on my gravy.
I think I've talked many times about Tyler's character. His last character spoke with a Cajun, very thick Cajun accent.
Oh, very thick.
And
I couldn't understand.
Nobody could, and that was the point.
And his character got a lot of, do you speak common? I don't understand whatever language you're speaking.
His response was usually, "That's fuck I'm speaking."
What I'm thinking, man.
And I was like supposed to be his best friend,
And you didn't
like
understand
people
a
kept
fuck-
trying to ask me to like translate for him, but I had like a 6 intelligence. I don't know.
It was
You
great.
talk like this.
I loved it. It was, but I did it faster too.
Yeah.
Like it was. That was the point. Was I was trying to make it so fast you couldn't understand it.
Weren't you watching like a lot of swamp people at
I
the time?
was. I don't know why I started watching Swamp People. I guess because I had the like Cajun mindset. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to watch Swamp People. And then, fucking Troy, I think was his name, come up. And I was like,
Shoot him.
that's exactly. I was
shoot him.
like modeling it off of him. And then I realized that my voice isn't as deep as his. So I was like, well, I'm going to make it faster than his so that people can't understand me. It worked out. I loved it.
It was really good.
It was.
It was really good.
It was funny. That first interaction. That's another one that will live in my head forever. Anybody speak common?
That was, yeah.
All right. So now it's another time to make up a question, which I've been working on pretty well this whole episode.
I figured.
While y'all have been talking.
You look like you was thinking real hard.
I was. That's unfortunate because it hurt my head.
Yeah.
You know, Ethan's talking about having a 6 intelligence in game. I have a 6 intelligence in real life.
Yeah.
Imagine how hard it was for me to act like I had a 6 intelligence.
It's not that hard for me. It's harder for me to.
That was the funny thing. Ethan had the 6. You had the 20.
Yeah. And nobody could understand a fucking word I said.
So good. So good. What's your question?
So the question is, what is one homebrew rule that you would want to implement into our games
That we don't currently
that we
use?
don't currently use? I know mine, and I can go ahead and go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can get over 20.
Yeah.
The 20 is not the cap. Fuck
That
it.
would be nice.
I don't know why there needs to be one.
Bounded accuracy. Bounded accuracy.
I don't know what that is.
It's the math that helps keep 5e from being 3.5. So you don't have these crazy modifiers.
Gotcha.
Keeps your modifiers smaller,
Yeah, but
just more manageable.
I get that to a degree, but same time.
Man, I don't know.
I think certain races could benefit from a size increase, like Goliath. And I think
Like being large instead of still being
like Goliath, Orc, Minotaur could all benefit from being large. And they're supposed to be like 7 to 10 feet tall anyway.
Flip side of that, would you make halfling and gnome small?
They are small.
They are
Are they small?
Yeah.
Yeah. And fairies are tiny.
Yeah.
So they
could've
go
swore they were
lower
medium.
than medium,
Yeah.
but they don't go
No,
higher.
they're small.
I could have swore they were medium.
Because like if you are playing a Goliath who is large and you take enlarge reduce, you go up to
Huge.
huge. It's
Huge.
huge. Right? And I think that could be really interesting to play with.
Gotcha.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
That's my change.
I think it'd be a good change.
I don't know.
You don't have any on deck.
Well, I'm the current DM, so any homebrew rules I think we would want, I would
just
put in
implement
there.
them?
Oh, we had. It's not really. I don't have a homebrew rule, but something to fix the yo-yo effect of healing. So you get down, you go down, get back up. There's no penalty for doing this currently, right?
Right.
We have talked about implementing some sort of system about
Like a wound system.
like a wound or an exhaustion, some mechanic to stop the yo-yo effect of like I go down, healing word, come back up. Go
Oh,
back down
okay, I
again.
got you.
Yeah,
Of being knocked to zero.
yeah, going to zero
Gotcha.
and getting. There's no ramifications for going to zero currently.
Gotcha. That's understandable.
Yeah.
I could see. It would
So-
make having a healer more important.
Yeah,
So I had thought about that too, because back when Total War Warhammer 3 came out, they implemented a new system for characters and lores on there, where if they were under 50% health, they would get a wounded debuff. But it's really effective. It's really interesting. Makes it a lot easier to handle things like that. But it also, whenever you get that low, it's very detrimental.
so I think currently the playtest for 1D&D just released their exhaustion system, and it's 10 levels. And I think that would work. You just get a -1 to your rolls for every level of exhaustion. So I think, and it doesn't have like the current like 6-level exhaustion of like, the negative debuffs on that. So I think that would help dissuade from that type of, yo-yoing in combat.
Where
which
you're
can-
down constantly, but you're constantly getting brought back up.
Yeah.
The other thing I saw was a healing cap. So you have half of your health as a healing cap.
That's as far as up you can go.
Once you've been down.
Once you go below it.
No, like you can only be healed that much.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Like ever?
Like
Or just
per,
per long rest.
Yeah. Okay.
Or per short rest, depending on your class.
Yeah.
So like a barbarian might be able to do it every short rest, but like a wizard probably only every long
long
rest.
rest. Be interesting.
Interesting.
It is interesting. That'd make that would make it harder to.
Yeah, I guess if you hit
It would make it harder to play a healer, but we've talked about it several times. Why
would
would you
make
play
temp-
a healer?
It would make temp HP a lot more effective.
Yes, it would.
because that's extra shit.
Yep.
That would not count for healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that wraps up everything as far as what we wanted to talk about as far as the session 0 and homebrew rules and character creation. This was kind of a catch-all episode. It seems like.
I had fun.
Yeah. It was.
Sometimes.
It's different not having to just read stuff off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk to us on Discord, or if you want to see our Facebook page, which right now is only post of our links to the episodes, you can find us on anchor.fm/chaotically-nerdy. And we appreciate you listening. We hope to catch you on the next one. Goodbye.
Deuce.
Bye.